Welcome. Welcome to all of you to this 2022 live streamed forum for Menomonie School Board candidates. Thank you all for attending. And thank all of you candidates for your willingness to participate and your interest in serving our community. I am Ellen Oakes, co-president of the League of Women Voters, Greater Chippewa Valley. And in partnership with the Menomonee Area Chamber of Commerce, we bring you this forum presentation. This month of February in 2022, the League of Women Voters celebrates its 102nd birthday. In March, we are co-sponsoring a free performance of Failure is Impossible at the Mabel Tainter Theater concerning the history of women's right to vote. Watch for that. The League is nonpartisan and pro-voting, committed to protecting your voting rights locally, statewide, and nationally. We work hard to bring you information right from the candidates, as in this forum. And on the website vote411.org, which resource will become available after March 7th for the spring election. Thanks to videographer Steve Hansen, who makes tonight's live stream possible. A recording of this forum will be posted on our League website, lwv-gcv.org, and on wis.community. Please share that information with your neighbors and friends. The field of 7 candidates will be narrowed to 6 at the primary election on Tuesday, February 15th, and to 3 victors at the spring election on Tuesday, April 5th. Voters may vote for 3 candidates at both the primary and the spring elections. Here are the rules for this evening. Lots were drawn ahead of time for the candidate speaking order. Number 1 will go first for opening statement, and so forth. And at the closing of our meeting tonight, their closing statements will be in reverse order. As we work through the questions, the order will change. The candidates will make opening 2-minute statements and closing of 30 seconds. All of their question answers will be limited to 2 minutes per question. And every candidate will have an opportunity to answer each question. The questions were collected over some time before this event tonight because it's not possible time-wise to ask the audience. But we sorted through them and got a good variety, and I think it will take our entire hour and a half or 2 hours to get through them. So we'll all do our best. There is a time clock in the corner of the screen, so you can keep track of how the candidates are doing when they're talking. And now it is my pleasure to call on our candidates to introduce themselves. We will start with Scott Parker.
Well, the timer hasn't started. I'll just go ahead. My name is Scott Parker, as Ellen said. I'm running for school board here in Menomonie Area School District. My wife and I, we moved into town last year. I went to high school in Menomonee. I moved away after I graduated. I came back in 2019. I bought my house. I married my wife. We're starting a family, and we're looking forward to sending our kids to the Menomonee Area School Districts. And there are a few things that I'm pretty passionate about that I think we could do better at. Obviously, I think the Menomonee School District is doing pretty great, but there, like all things, there's room for improvements in everything. So some of the things that I think we could improve upon are transparency. So increasing transparency for the teachers and the community for what our teachers are teaching the students is very important, especially for public participation, which is another thing that I'm very passionate about. That's why I think that we should withdraw from the National School Board Association, as that's a national organization that doesn't understand local issues that our community faces. I believe that local funds should stay local and that this organization doesn't support us. And with 17 states withdrawing their membership from the National School Board Association, including Minnesota, and the Wisconsin area Association of School Districts changing their rules so that in the future they can withdraw from the National School Board Association, I think our local districts should do the same. I don't think we should be paying over $4,000 a year to this institution, and our funds could be better spent. Lastly, I'd like to emphasize Constitution Day, September 17th. I believe that we should make sure all of our graduating students are literate to the Constitution, and we must all teach the rising generation to be free. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott Parker. That was our first candidate. Our second candidate is Abe Smith.
Hi, my name is Abe Smith. I'm a professional teacher with 20 years of experience. Like all teachers, I've spent countless nights and weekends grading homework, assembling materials, designing curriculum, reviewing textbooks, and finding new ways to support students. I'm deeply involved in administration and financial planning at Stout and elsewhere, where we make difficult compromises on a tight budget. I'm also a professional scientist and project manager. One thing I've learned across all this professional experience is that every decision has trade-offs. The only way to make good long-term progress is by listening and working in good faith to build consensus and trust across stakeholders. We all know that the last 2 years have been absolutely brutal on the schools and families in the Menomonee area. Everyone in this district has felt frustration and grief and anger and confusion and exhaustion and other emotions we don't even have names for. But I don't think this election should be a rehash of 2021. I think this election is really about where we want our schools to be in 2025 when this term would be up. So here are my principles on those points. First, teachers and staff need to be treated as professionals with good pay, predictable workload, and genuine support from the administration. In the aftermath of the last 2 years, our teachers and staff honestly are completely burned out. We must make SDMA in the future an attractive place for great teachers to build stable long-term careers and settle down and want to stay here. Secondly, education is for everyone of all backgrounds. We know that the home life of every individual student is different, but each student should feel that they belong at SDMA and know that we're offering the best education we possibly can to each individual. Finally, we have to respect families. The choices made by SDMA have a huge impact on the home life of every family across the district. And across culture, faith, health, gender, language, income, childcare, etc., we need to listen and avoid making unfair and disruptive choices. Thank you.
Thank you, Abe Smith. Candidate number 3, Rachel Henderson.
Hi, I'm Rachel Henderson. I have 2 kids at Downsville Elementary, Cecil and Marcel, and I am a local farmer. One other thing that most of my friends know about me is that I love podcasts. I listen to them while doing all kinds of work on my farm. And a few years ago, I was listening to several episodes in a podcast about school choice. And I learned so much about how parents shape decisions in school districts, the impact that has on public schools when the most involved parents make a decision to pull their kids out. And while I was listening to this, I was sort of congratulating myself because I knew I was choosing our public school. I was choosing community school. I felt like I was doing the right thing. And then the rubber really hit the road. And it seemed for a while like my older son was struggling with certain subjects. I couldn't figure out how to help him. When I talked to his teachers, they told me he's doing okay, that kids learn at different rates, that I shouldn't worry. And I didn't believe them. I was really convinced that my kid needed more and I had to do something. And I seriously considered homeschooling, pulling him out, and I was agonizing over that decision for a while. And then those podcasts popped back into my mind, and I started thinking about the bigger picture. And in that moment, I really felt a weight of personal responsibility because I know that our public schools need us and that participation of all parents and all families in the community is so vital. And I know that our teachers are professionals and that they can do so much better than I can, and they deserve my respect for that. The good news is my kid reads all the time, He writes without challenges, and he finishes his homework every night. He's learning and thriving, and his teachers were right. I had nothing to worry about. I want to serve on the Menomonie School Board because I know how important it is to look past our immediate personal struggles, to take a look at the bigger picture, and to be a champion for our schools, our students, and our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany. No, sorry. Thank you, Rachel. I'm skipping ahead. Our next speaker is Brittany Weiker.
Good evening. I'm Brittany Weiker. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and WIS community for making this possible. I would also like to thank the viewers for taking the time to make an informed decision when casting their vote. I was born and raised in Menomonee. I attended Menomonie School District kindergarten through 12th grade. My graduated class was one of the first to attend the current middle school where my 2 children currently go to school. My children are very active in academic clubs and sports. They participate in everything from baseball, wrestling, swimming, football, softball, basketball, and trap club to band and math counts. I started dating my husband while we went to the high school here in town. We both continued our education at UW Stout. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in business administration and a minor in speech communication. Since then, I have managed multiple businesses in town here. There are a few reasons why I am running. I want to support the teachers and staff that have been so amazing to my children over the years. I oppose mask and vaccine mandates. Healthcare decisions should be left to the family. Almost 70% of parents surveyed said they do not want mask mandates. I also support fiscal responsibility. I support curriculum transparency. If anyone feels part of the curriculum should be hidden from parents, then it shouldn't be taught to our children. I have strong communication skills. I believe this would be an asset to the board. I am not afraid to say, I don't know, but I will help figure it out. I will stand up for what is right for the kids while keeping a level head. Our kids come first. I love our community. I've decided that it's time to take an active role and run for school board. I support fact-based decision-making, and I want to be a common sense voice on the board. Thanks again for listening.
Thank you, Brittany Weiker. Our next candidate is Dominique Stewart.
Hi, my name is Dominique Stewart. There's a good chance if you're watching that you might recognize me. I was the music teacher at River Heights Elementary for the past 5 years. I've taught at summer school in the district for longer than that. I started the summer before my teaching job at River Heights. I grew up in Menomonee. I graduated from the high school, so maybe you recognize me from being a student in the community, or maybe you see me out and about with my parents, James or Deborah, one of my many siblings. But if you don't know me at all, you should know that my story begins before Menomonee. I've lived here for a long time, but my parents met in the military, and so we moved up here from Texas after my father retired. And moving from Texas to a small town in Wisconsin was a big jump for me as a second grader. And I remember my first day of class clearly, and I was so lucky to have an amazing second grade teacher whose name was Mrs. Jordan. And at a time when I felt exposed and vulnerable and kind of alone, looking different than everyone, having different backgrounds, she made me feel safe and cared for and valued. And that is really the start of my journey in this district, is continuously having teachers that went above and beyond to care for each of their students and their education. So I was able to come back to the district and be a teacher. And one of the reasons I'm running for school board is because I want to continue to support these teachers that I value and care for, as well as the students that I loved educating for 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominique Stewart. Our next candidate is David Steyer. You're muted.
Okay, we're good. Thank you, Ellen. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this candidate forum tonight. I have had the pleasure of serving on the school board in the Menomonee District for the past 9 years, and it's been an honor for me to be involved with the school district. I'm extremely proud of what this district has done and accomplished and the education that is provided for our children. My wife is Karen. We have 4 children. Our oldest daughter, Sarah, and her husband, Nate, live in Cincinnati, Ohio. Sarah is the emergency room doctor in the residency program in her first year. Our second daughter, Krista, helps us here on the farm. She also has her own photography business, Krista Photography, and does a lot of work with that in the area. Our third child is Ben. Ben is the current state FFA president, very involved in academics and working with the FFA and things of that nature, and also attending the U of M. He's on leave this year, which is his sophomore year, because of the FFA commitment. And finally, our fourth son, Brian, is a sophomore at the high school and very involved in forensics and other activities. I will get into more specifics about what I feel we've accomplished as a board over the past 9 years. But personally, I want to just to say that I farm with my family. My brothers, Randy and Dale. There's 14 of us that work on the farm here at Alphalon. Been very involved in the community. All of us have in one way or another. I also want to talk a little bit about my faith. I've been a teacher, a CCD teacher at our local church for over 30 years, teaching 7th and 8th grade students, and have really appreciated that. So looking forward to the next couple of hours, and thank you.
Thank you, Dave Steyer. Okay, our 7th and last candidate is Jennifer Zachary.
Okay. Hello. Thank you, Ellen, for the invitation this evening. And I also would like to thank the League of Women Voters. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. I was born and raised in central Minnesota. I graduated from Apollo High School. I went on and did at the St. Cloud Tech College for 2 years for child development and special needs, and also in hearing impaired. I also went to school for cosmetology, and I worked in the salon up until I had my second son, Terrence, who was born with Down syndrome and heart difficulties. He actually changed my whole path. I then became a stay-at-home mom, and I worked on the farm with my husband daily. As my kids grew, I had the opportunity, because of farming, to volunteer a lot of my time at their school, which gave me such joy because I got to watch them read and learn amongst their friends and peers. I also got to chaperone a lot of their field trips, and I was a part of every program that they partaked in. Now that I have 3 of my children that have graduated and 2 are on the brink of it, my time is shifting, and I feel a need to help out in our community more. My goals that I could bring to the SDMA board is to help create and perform to be as a solid board member, no matter how diverse it could become. I want to raise academic achievement for all students. I think that's very important. We want our kids to succeed. I also am really good at teamwork. I've lived my whole life with teamwork, and I think that's a great thing to have on the board. Patience and being respectful to others, even when my views could be different from theirs. But I have the ability to listen intently, but above all, I think I can bring common sense. So that's it.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, that is our cast of characters tonight, and we will start with the first question, which will go to we'll start with Abe Smith answering this question. I'm going to post it here for you. Okay. What do you think is the most important current issue facing the school district of Menomonee area right now? And how would you work to address it on school board?
Thank you. As I kind of indicated in my opening, I think teacher burnout is the number one problem facing SDMA at this moment. Not just SDMA, but schools across the country. I talk with a lot of teachers and staff. I can guarantee you that almost everyone has considered quitting in the last year. I know that sounds dramatic, but I think it's true. For lots of teachers and staff, it's like a daily mantra. They wake up in the morning, they're getting ready for work, they're brushing their teeth, taking a shower, whatever, and they think to themselves, it'll be okay. I can make it through today. I can always quit tomorrow if I have to. We have to remember that teachers and staff are also parents of young kids and spouses and siblings and complicated families and caretakers of elderly parents. They have all the roles that the rest of us do in town. And they are also taking care of the individual needs of 20 or 30 students in their classroom whose own families are facing problems. The pressures in the last couple of years have been absolutely enormous. We have to make sure that Menomonee is a place where professional teachers and staff have faith that they can build a long-term career. This means good pay with regular promotion opportunities, but not just that. It means predictable workload and scheduling, but not just that. It means solid benefits at reasonable rates, but not just that. It means a culture of professional respect where teachers are confident that if they see a problem or have an idea, that they can actually talk about those problems and ideas without fear of retribution, that they will be taken seriously and things will be discussed and acted on with a team of peers. It definitely means that we should never place bureaucratic burdens on teachers that would take away from their preparation and professional time. So this is what it means when I talk about like supporting professional teachers. I want a teacher to look at Menomonee and say, yes, this is a school system where I can have a career and not just a gig, or this is a place I want to buy a house. This is a place where as a teacher, I want my own kids to go to school. Experienced teachers are leaving and new teachers are thrown in a mentorship and they'll burn up even faster. So we can't keep going like this. We really have to address the issues about teacher support.
Thank you, Abe. Rachel Henderson, do you want to answer that question?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for that question, Ellen. I agree with Abe. I think teacher support and teacher retention right now is incredibly important and going to be in the next 5 years a really big issue that Menomonie School District is facing. I know as a parent of kids at a very small school, our Downsville school is such a community. It is such it has such a family feel to it. And when we have teachers who have been there for many years, they really get to know the kids, they know their siblings, and there's so much benefit to that goes beyond what happens every day in their learning. I think Abe spoke to that much more eloquently than I can. And I want to touch on another issue that I think is a major one facing SDMA right now, and that's trust. I think what this community has gone through, what this country has gone through, and Menomonee in particular, over the last 2 years, has really eroded our trust in one another. And I think that applies to all kinds of different relationships. I think the way parents feel about the school board, the way the school board feels about administration, the way the administration feels about staff, the way teachers experience their work days, I think trust is lacking. And I think a big part of how we work to repair that as a school board is to commit to transparency. I think we need to make sure that the public, that community members, that parents, and that teachers understand how school board's making decisions. I think we need to make sure that we hear from everybody. We hear from all parties involved, not just the loudest voices, and not just the most powerful in the hierarchy. I think we really need to make sure that we understand the challenges that everyone is facing and make sure that teachers in the community understand why we make decisions we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel Henderson. Okay, Brittany Weiker.
I am going to go ahead and agree with the previous two candidates. I believe supporting the staff is the biggest issue currently. With COVID, volunteers have been very limited, which is putting more stress on our staff. They need to bring back parents into the classroom and, they can help with projects. They can just basically take part of the stress off of these teachers. that goes right along with what I kind of said with transparency, and just if parents are able to help, then it's kind of a twofold win where the parents are involved and it's taking part of the stress off the teachers. So I do agree with what the previous two candidates said, and I guess that's what I have to say about that.
Okay, thank you, Brittany Weiker. Next speaker up would be Dominique Stewart.
Well, we seem to be on theme so far tonight. I'm going to agree and say that supporting teachers and staff is important. I would sort of address it as what we've been calling the teacher shortage. You know, we kind of knew this was coming anyways, and I think COVID is sort of escalating the situation. But I think something to keep in mind is that we don't really have a shortage of qualified individuals who want to teach. We have a shortage of qualified individuals who are willing to work in terrible conditions and environments that are set up. And I think that we are really running a risk of putting ourselves in a position where we have to start filling spaces with people who are not qualified, who don't have experience, in order to cover classrooms and educate our kids. We really see that already with the subbing that is going on. You know, and I think it's important too to remember that when we're talking about teachers who have left, and that's me, it's not an easy choice most of the time, right? Like, I didn't leave because the pay was too low, which, you know, I'd love to be paid more. But there are a lot of things going on in our district that make it hard. There were situations in my classroom where I didn't feel like my learning environment was disrupted. And when I asked for help, there was like no help given. So then it's like, what am I doing here? We can't even teach. And so there are just a lot of situations like that that I think we really have to come to terms with as a board to help support our teachers so that we can retain them and maintain a quality education for our students.
Thank you, Dominique Stewart. Next up would be Dave Steyer.
Okay, so the question was, what do we think is one of the most pressing issues in the district? I guess I would take a little bit different take. I think as a district, we need to get to the point where we start moving past the COVID pandemic that we've been in the last 2 years. And I think if we start taking steps to move in this direction to get things back to normal, I think a lot of these problems will solve themselves. And not that it's easy, but I feel very confident in the steps that our district has done the past 2 years to get through the difficult days that we've had, to fill classrooms, to find subs, and we've had a lot of creative solutions to fill positions in the district. But one of the things that we've been working on is our strategic plan. We continually try to bring it back up, and we have an agenda item coming up on our next board meeting to talk about the strategic plan, work plan again. Try to keep our focus on some of that. That includes everything in the district, from our academic achievements to our pay for staff to the entire range. And so I think one of the things too that people have to keep in mind is what the school board's role in the district is. And the school board, their job is to hire an administrator and to set policy for the district. And it's very important that people keep that in mind. You know, we're not into the operations. We're not set up to do things that we shouldn't be doing. We need to do what we do and to do it well and do a good job of it. And so I guess my take on it is to try to get some normalcy back into the district and to take steps to get us to that point and then move forward from there. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dave Steyer. Now let's hear from Jennifer Zachary.
Okay, as I stated in my opening, I'd like to focus on academic achievement. Due to the COVID, there's been gaps in our learning. that in the school is trying to support all efforts made in that direction. I support the strategic plan, which has already been put forth with the board. And I support the curriculum transparency. I think that's a very important piece in our school. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. And now let's hear from Scott Parker on this issue.
Oh, thank you. So when we talk about what the most pressing issue facing the school district, I like to rely on the parents and guardians and members of the community that I've talked to in person. And one of the overarching themes of everyone that I talk to is transparency, from whitewashing history to teaching CRT, which I haven't seen either of those things in the district, but the topic of trust has come up, and that goes a long way. And if you can't trust what the school district is teaching our children, then we're going to have a problem. So even if we're not teaching these things that people are concerned about, increasing transparency so that members of our community can see the curriculum that's being taught, from the assignments to the handouts to the tests. And we can see what our children are being taught, and we can show up to the school boards if we either don't like it. There's a lot of topics that you can opt out of in the school district, and you can't, as a parent or guardian, opt out of those topics if you're not informed on what they are, or what the teaching curriculum is. So increasing that transparency and having that online for easy access for any member of our community to see is very important. And from the people that I've talked to in our community, that is the most important issue facing our parents these days. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. That's everybody. So it's time to start a new question, and Rachel Henderson will be answering this one. In your view, what role should the school board take in addressing curriculum controversies on issues such as race, the environment, sex education, or gender identity?
Thank you for that question. I want to just make sure to clarify. Oh, wait, gone. Okay, I'm going to do my best to answer the question as I understand it. I think that Dave made a really important point in the last comment. The school board's role is not to dictate what teachers are doing in the classroom. And I think that we have amazing teachers in this district. And I really think that the best role that we can play is in empowering and trusting them to take on and tackle difficult issues. I know as a parent, I am so floored all the time at my kids' ability to grapple with what I think are really difficult subjects. They're not difficult for kids. Everything is, everything is equally difficult for kids at a certain age. And I think if we treat them as capable of taking on difficult issues, then they will take them on, and they will be capable. I think that the school board should never be in a position or taking a position of banning teachers from doing any, from teaching particular books, or for taking on a particular approach to a subject. This question lists a lot of hot button issues, and I know that there are folks all over the country that are thinking about these things right now. And I think that there is going to, what we're going to see in the next few years is a lot of creativity and a lot of great work from our teachers in figuring out how to teach these. So I want them to be able to use every tool they have in their toolbox to be able to take that on, and I think the school board's role is to not hamper that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Next up would be Brittany Weiker. How would you answer that one?
I believe that, yes, the school should be teaching stuff like sex education. I guess I'm not sure about what the question means by the environment. Obviously, we should protect the environment. It is important. As far as race, teaching a lot about race, I feel creates racism. So I think that the school district should kind of step away from teaching a ton about race. And same for gender identity. I don't think it's the school district's place to teach gender identity. I believe that's something that should be discussed within the home. I guess I'm going to keep my answer short and sweet on this one. Thanks.
Okay, Brittany, thank you. Next up would be Dominique Stewart.
This is a pretty loaded question. Ultimately, banning curriculums, I don't think is generally something that a school board should do. First of all, banning something automatically makes it more interesting to people. That's why everybody knows about the book Mouse, even though I would have never known about it had it not been banned. But I trust the teachers in our district, and I trust them to not just think about a topic and start spewing about it. I trust them to do research. I trust them to collaborate. We have a lot of collaboration built into the schedules for our teachers anyhow. So they're constantly working across grade levels and content areas. So I think that we need to continue giving teachers resources so that when they are discussing these challenging, controversial issues, that they have the resources they need to present them clearly and responsibly. When you start to remove things from the curriculum, like discussing race and people's cultures, that's how you open up ignorance to those cultures. And racism is not stemmed in talking about issues. It's stemmed from ignorance and not having friends and family of different cultures and not traveling and meeting people and knowing about people. When you know someone and you experience their culture, you learn about it, that's when you connect. And that's how you are able to get rid of misinformation. So I support our teachers in handling all of these sort of delicate topics.
Thank you, Dominique Stewart. Next speaker, David Steyer.
Okay, thank you. The question was, what role should we take in handling curriculum controversies? Before I get to that, I talked a little bit about the classroom and things that happened. And I think all parents appreciate a teacher that can provide perspective on issues, not a teacher that's going to push his or her own agenda, but a teacher that has a balanced perspective. The best teachers I ever had were teachers that had no idea what their political persuasion was. They were able to teach a class and show all sides of it and be fair about it. As far as the school board's role, our role is to set policy. And we've done that a lot over the years, whether it be through racism or different policies of discrimination and stuff that's come before the board. We've had to tweak them and adjust them, and that's our role. But as far as in the classroom, I know we did have an issue at the middle school a few years back, and that actually turned into having hearings at the high school and stuff, and got to be pretty involved. But that's only in, if it goes through the chain of command, and if parents have had an issue, they've taken it up with their teacher, the building principal, followed up through with administration, and if they haven't gotten what they wanted, then come before the school board. So, I think it's pretty clear where the school board falls on that, and I think we need to stick to what we're supposed to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave Steyer. Next speaker on this question would be Jennifer Zachary.
Hi. Okay. The board should be taking a position in supporting transparency in curriculum. in regard to race, environment, and sex ed. There are established policies on how to handle those materials that if a parent feels that it is inappropriate, and I fully support that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Now we'll hear from Scott Parker.
Oh, the topic of transparency is coming up a lot during this forum. So I'll just reiterate, when it comes to the curriculum, I shouldn't have more power as a school board member than all the parents in our community. So if we had more transparency, so that if there were a controversial topic in the curriculum that people disagreed that was in there, they could come to the school board meeting and have their voices be heard. More public participation is better. So I'm not going to know what all these issues are. The community as a whole will be able to bring these to the board, and we'll be able to hear that out. When it comes to the environment, that doesn't seem like it's part of the curriculum. That's more of an infrastructure. We have a good start with the solar panel project that's going on right now. As far as sex education, that's one of those topics that I brought up earlier that you as a parent can opt your children out of. And with that transparency, if you disagree with the sex education syllabus and their curriculum and what's being taught to your children, if you were informed, you could pull your kids out of that class if that was your prerogative. Or if you supported it, you could leave your children in. And the same thing with gender identity. I'm not sure how that applies. I haven't been through a modern sex education, although that is a very hot topic these days. Our school district does have a gender policy for that. That is one that I would like to see reformed. There are aspects of that gender identity policy where it says that the staff in our school district may notify the parents, and I would like to see more solid language that if there's something going on in the school, the parents should know about it in the home. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, and Abe, you get the last shot at this question.
Thank you. So the question is about what role school board should take. I think multiple people have said that the school board really doesn't directly affect curriculum, but does set policies which can affect the way that administrators and teachers discuss and approach curriculum. So from my experience as a teacher, let me just say a few things. The very core of being a teacher is to help students understand subtle and difficult subjects step by step in age-appropriate ways. That's the entire job of being a teacher. In terms of history, racism, and so on, our history contains beauty and brilliance. It also has gross and horrible things. And over their education in the right place at the right time, with support and context, students should learn these things. I just want to kind of make a note that, as parents and as teachers, let's remember, we're not raising kids to be kids. We're raising kids to become adults, right? So when a student graduates from Menomonee High School, we expect them to be a fully functional citizen with awareness of complex issues that we all face. If we don't talk about racism in history, if we don't help recognize racism in the present, then we're doing a disservice and leaving our kids completely unequipped to become adults. So look at us right now, right? Here we are on a call, right? With hopefully hundreds of people watching. And we're a bunch of adults talking productively, I think, about the meaning of racism and education in society today. And if we're doing right by our students, then any 2022 graduate of MHS should be able to have the same conversation. They should be aware of these topics. They should be engaged in them, fluent in the nuance, right? We expect someone graduating from high school to be an adult ready to enter society. So I think that is my general principle in terms of lots of these things, that teachers build with proper support, the right context and knowledge in our kids.
Thank you, Abe Smith. Now we'll go on to question number 3, which I'm going to send and read to you. COVID mitigation has been a point of contention for the past 2 years. with the board making decisions based both on health recommendations and on social considerations. What will you do to move the district toward policy that meets the health and social needs of the community? And we'll start with Brittany Weiker.
In my intro, I kind of already touched on COVID and masking and vaccine mandates. I believe that they should be left up to the family. Masking and vaccines aren't for everybody, and I don't believe that everyone should be mandated to get them. I think social distancing has helped, so we can continue to do that. But I just I don't feel that everyone should be forced to wear a mask or forced to get the vaccine. Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany Weiker. Next would be Dominique Stewart.
So COVID mitigation has been a big point of contention. And sometimes I'm actually frustrated because I feel like as a district and even as a community, we have invested far more time arguing about it than spending our efforts in education. Especially as a teacher in the district, seeing the kids adapt so well and adjust from 2020 to 2021 school year, they're kids and they're going to do what they need to do. And especially these kids growing up in this pandemic, like they're almost admirable in their ability to continue and find joy even in school when everybody's wearing masks and everything's different and you don't get to go to the music room anymore and you don't get to be with your friends. Like they found ways to adjust to that in ways that us as adults sometimes didn't. So that's been a little frustrating, but I think the reality is we need to move forward and that we should not be spending another summer, another school year with hour-long board meetings focused solely on this. I think that that's a social need of our community. Our school board meetings, especially when we've had a large amount of community there, have not been something that is a good model for our students. It's not something that I would want to see them do, like just the way they've been so contentious. So my goal is to help bring more collaboration to the board, more respect, more listening, and understanding other points of view. And I don't think that the COVID mitigation we've had to deal with the past 2 years is going to look the same next school year.
Thank you, Dominique. Dave Steyer, what do you say?
Okay, obviously being in the thick of it the last 2 years, very involved with the steps the board has taken. I felt that we've been very adaptive because, as everybody knows, the CDC, the government has changed their stance on this issue many, many times. And so even our local and state health departments have changed their standpoint and view on it many, many times. And so trying to adapt as a school board and keep it focused on what the community needs has been a challenge, but I feel like we've done a fairly good job of doing that. I do feel that we are at the point now where it's time to move on. I think that why is it that only in the school buildings should kids be forced to wear masks? We're optional right now in the district, but there's no place else in our community where masking is enforced. And so I think, and it's been that way for quite a while. I think we're at the point where as a district, we need to get past the pandemic and start treating COVID more as we do other common illnesses such as the flu and things of that nature. And whether or not it'll be in the next month or 2 months, I'm not sure. 3 months, certainly hopeful that before we start school next year that we're back to normal, if not this year. And so, I know there's been a lot of critics. But I'll say this, it's easy to to sit on the sidelines and say that you should have done this or you should have done that. But I think that our school board has done a good job of listening to concerns from all sides, and I think, as I said before, it's time to move on. So thank you.
Thank you, Dave Steyer. Next would be Jennifer Zachary.
Okay, so as far as masks and vaccines go, I do believe it's a personal choice and it's a parent's choice. No one should ever have to be forced to wear a mask or to get a vaccine. I don't think it's our government or a school district's decision to make for our children's health decisions. That's it. Thank you.
Next speaker would be Scott Parker.
So I'm going to have to agree with Dave Steyer in that it's time to move on. It doesn't seem like the mitigation tactics that we've used really did a whole lot of good. At one of the board meetings, it was brought up that during the elementary school masking policy, where it was mandatory, there was an entire class that came down with COVID. So they were all wearing masks. So clearly in that situation, those masks didn't do any good. And it's been shown that COVID doesn't affect kids the same way it affects elderly people. So I think that masking our kids is unnecessary. And as far as vaccinations, so there was a school district out in Madison that was setting up vaccination stations in their school district. And I think that's just inappropriate. With the lawsuit that the school district got for the masking policy, I don't think that having vaccines readily available in any school district should be on our list of things to do. If, for example, a student whose parents didn't want their child to get vaccinated was vaccinated in the school district, that would just invite a lawsuit. So I don't think that vaccination should be required for the COVID-19 or given in the school district. As far as the policy on social distancing, I think that being social is a thing that kids need. And let's just get back to normal. This thing has run its course, and that's how I feel about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott Parker. Now let's give Abraham Smith a chance to talk about this one.
So one thing I want to point out is that, vaccine mandates aren't really in the scope of the school board anyway. The current vaccination chart with DTaP and polio and MMR and the rest, that's a Wisconsin DHS chart. It's, the school board just does what, it isn't even part of that. In terms of COVID policy, we have to look at where we are now. I mean, I think, a lot of us are still kind of entrenched in what happened last summer and last fall, but this is February 2022. The Omicron surge is hopefully starting its way down. The expected availability of vaccines down to age 2 is hopefully the next month. And there's, it's likely there'll be annual shots for adults probably next fall. So, if I'm elected, I would be on the school board from summer 2022 to summer 2025. And I guarantee that whatever health and safety problems we face in that time frame, they will not be the same as what we faced in the past 2 years, right? Things are always changing into the future. So let me just kind of talk about health and safety in general. Overall, my position is that the district, as with any employer, has a responsibility to provide a safe and healthy working environment for its teachers and staff, and to provide a safe and healthy learning environment for students. This is like a general principle. It really isn't about COVID in particular. It's just about general health and safety. And on any safety topic, the district should be responsible by gathering professional advice and using whatever tools it has available to attempt to follow that advice. There can always be nuance and give and take when it comes to finding correct policy details in different circumstances. And the district should strive, of course, to find simple, clear policies that parents and students and employees can understand and follow, because if something's too complicated, it's just not going to work. So now I do want to say clearly, like with any policy, individuals should have the ability to request exemptions for religious or medical or personal reasons. And the district should always try to accommodate those exemptions in a way that doesn't put others in harm's way. So again, I just want to go back 1 second. We're going to deal with the fallout of COVID, not COVID itself, in the next term.
Okay, I was thinking you were going to say one more thing, so.
I ran out of time.
Thank you, Abe Smith. Okay. Rachel Henderson.
I get the last word on COVID. When I announced that I was running for school board, the first thing that happened was people started asking me what I thought about mask mandates. And honestly, I hope to never be in a position to make a decision about mask mandates. I do really hope that we are past those really difficult decisions. And so I appreciate that this question, as I read it, is asking us what we would do on the school board, looking toward the future to meet the health and safety needs of our students in the community. I think I would echo what Abe said. I think about my kids being in school. One of my sons has a classmate with an autoimmune disease. And I think about some of my kids' classmates live with their grandparents, live with elderly people. I think my kids are pretty healthy. They're pretty safe. I'm not too worried about them in the COVID-19 pandemic or with other illnesses that come up in the future. I think it's been mentioned by a couple of people that we're probably done dealing with COVID, but something else will be next. As a school board, as a school, we have to remember that every single student in our community has a right to a public education, has a right to be safe in a public school. And I think our responsibility is to make decisions and to set policy that ensure the safety of all students. And that's going to always look different. That's not going to be a simple answer. It's not going to be a yes or no on things like masks. It's not going to be a decision that the school makes in terms of public health policy. That's beyond our scope. But we always have to have an eye toward making sure that the most vulnerable students are safe in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel Henderson. Okay, I'm going to start another question now. And the first speaker will be Dominique Stewart. The question is, given educator burnout and labor market issues nationwide, what specific steps will you take to recruit, retain, and support excellent staff members?
Great question. So, one of the things I noticed when I served on the diversity committee for the STMA when I was a teacher was that, we had wanted to hire more staff, especially more diverse staff, but we had some limitations. And one of those was experience. And I think that when we are in situations where we could bring someone in to mentor with a staff member who has been here for a long time, that we should take advantage of that we need to consider new ways to expand our reach to teachers. I actually interviewed for a different position in the district and didn't get it. And while the reasons may or may not have been true, what I was told was because it came down to 2 years of experience. Well, I think I showed through my 5 years in the district that you don't necessarily need that. What you need is people around you who support you. So that's one step when we're trying to bring in people. I don't believe it's the role of the school board to step aside and just set policy. And then when teachers are saying, hey, we're struggling, that we just let it go and it's not our focus. Like, that's a big focus for me. That is why I'm here. And I believe that it starts by listening to teachers. I believe that it starts by not trying to intimidate teachers when they are vocal about the struggles they are going through. And unfortunately, we have a lot of that happening in our district. When we talk about transparency, let's talk about that. We need to support teachers and trust them and respect them. And if we have any chance of retaining these teachers in this district, I think that's a big place that we need to start, is by offering respect.
Thank you, Dominique Stewart. The next speaker on this question will be Dave Steyer.
Thank you. So steps to recruit, retrain, and support excellent staff members. I think that, in the labor market here in the past few years has been certainly a challenging one. It's not only the difficulty in teaching, but also the pressures from other jobs. The increase in pay in other sectors and other industries has lured some staff members away. But I think Menomonee, the school district in general, has been quite successful and has taken a lot of steps to work to offset that. I know we have actively recruited teachers, whether it be if we're for certain positions or things that niche positions that we need to fill. I don't see a problem with trying to get a really good teacher in, and sometimes that means that you might have to, from a pay standpoint or things like that. Some of these teachers are advanced in their careers, and so you have to fit them in the pay scale where they deserve to be. But I think our district has done a good job of that. And other things that we've done in the past, I know we just got done, we spent a lot of time in the work, Sam Hoyt and other ones in the administrative team over the past couple of years, especially this last year, with substitute teachers being flexible in how they pay them, give them bonuses if they work 5 days a week and things like that, trying to provide incentives for them to be there. We've also worked on a professional development days, being flexible, adding in days when, for instance, this year, Monday and Tuesday of Thanksgiving week, we'd had a long stretch of COVID stress coming up to that, and teachers that had to fill in a lot of different positions to cover absences in the district. And so we provided the staff Monday and Tuesday days for them to work on stuff, get caught up on their planning and papers and things of that nature. So I think we've been doing quite a bit in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave Steyer. Okay, our next speaker will be Jennifer Zachary.
Okay. I think we already have an excellent HR department with Samantha Hoyt as the director. We are already doing all of these things. I would support her efforts, as this is not a board-specific job. Thanks.
Scott Parker.
Thank you. So as far as educator burnout and labor market issues nationwide, specifically recruitment, if we were having an issue with the number of teachers in our school district, there are some things that we might be able to do, such as going to colleges and trying to recruit freshly educated and trained teachers out of college to help them start paying back their student loan debts, so that we could get some younger, more energetic teachers in there. And of course, like some of the other candidates have said, to team them up with older, wiser teachers, as in maybe a mentorship program that would help with the recruitment aspect of that question, and retention and supporting the excellent staff members. Now, I feel like that's sort of the same thing, because you're not going to retain those teachers if you're not supporting them. So what we could do is maybe look into the budget and see if there's, some room to take on more teachers, encourage smaller class sizes so that teachers have an easier time, and things of that nature. If we could have, if there's room in the budget, which obviously I don't have access to that, but board members will have access to, and we could look into maybe trying to initiate some sort of bonus for outstanding performance in our teachers and things of that nature. But of course, that would be something that you'd want to talk to the HR department, the principals in the schools, and things like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott Parker. Next speaker on this question will be Abe Smith.
Thank you. So I want to outline some of the specific problems that people are facing. First of all, a school isn't a building, it's people. So if we invest in the people, that's what makes the schools run. Teachers and staff are doing the jobs that used to be done by 2 or 3 people. And we need to actually invest in personnel to stabilize everyone's workload at a sustainable level. People can cover the, one or a second job for maybe a semester, maybe a year, but it can't go on very long before people just get shredded. For example, the district administrator recently suggested, I think 3 weeks ago, that it's possible that insurance premiums may have to increase soon for staff and teachers. So our staff and their families' health has suffered in all sorts of ways in the last 2 years, whether it's like long COVID or access to therapy or just seeing a dentist, right, in the last 2 years. So right now people are working sick because they've run out of PTO. They are neglecting sick family members because they can't stay home to help them. And they're being just compelled to just keep going in and keep clocking in so they can get certified teachers in classrooms. We need to make sure we don't go cutting benefits and increasing premiums when our staff need it the most, right? So it's basic things like this. I mean, like the problem is not just one of attracting new people in a dynamic market. It's a problem that the people who are there are falling through the floor. And we need to hold them and help them and rebuild that infrastructure. Again, the people are the school, not the buildings. And we have to make sure it's solid and that people know where they stand. I guess I only have 15 seconds, so I'll leave my quick note for another question. Thanks.
Thank you, Abe Smith. Let's give this question to Rachel Henderson.
Yeah, thank you. So in terms of recruitment, one thing I want to say is that my family has had the enormous privilege of having some fantastic teachers who were relatively new hires, young teachers in the district. And if any of you are listening tonight, shout out. We've just really enjoyed the way that we've gotten to work with the newer recruits, newer teachers in the Menomonie School District. So I think recruitment, we seem to do well. Retention and support. I agree with what Abe was just saying. Like, we need to make sure through this really, really difficult time that everybody's been going through, coming out of this, that our excellent staff, that our wonderful professional teachers know that they're valued and have all the resources they need to be able to keep doing their jobs day after day. A school is a very hierarchical organization, and that's by necessity. But I think as a society, as a culture, we really value democracy and we value democratic engagement. And if we want to make sure that's happening in a hierarchical setting like a school, we need to pay a lot of attention to how people with the least positional power are able to have their voices heard and are able to play into and are able to have influence on how decisions are made. And I think that what our school district really needs is a way for teachers to make sure that their concerns are being shared, that they're being addressed, that they're getting a response when they raise issues. And to know that that is being heard all the way up. And that includes to the school board. I think that Dave has made some excellent points as a veteran school board member about what the role is of the board, and we shouldn't expect us to do more than that. But I do think that the school board can hear more from teachers and be able to assure teachers that they get the support they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel Henderson. Let's give this question now to Brittany Weiker.
I think we need to reach out to parents and the community, bring them into the classrooms to help with the burden and the load that the teachers are going through. Reach out to retired teachers and have them help with as support staff. I think we have a good student teacher program, which helps bring in new teachers into the district. I also like using older students mentoring younger students. I remember when I went to River Heights, we had, when I was in 3rd grade, we had 6th grade buddies, and, just helping, having older students teach the younger students when, as the students are teaching, they can understand topics better. So that might just help reduce the load on our teachers. So yeah, that's what I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Brittany Weiker. Okay, time for a new question. And the person who will be starting to answer that question is Dave Steyer. And the question is, did it pop up? Wait a second, Dave, I didn't quite hit the right patch. There. Computers, I tell you. Okay. What would you recommend regarding the district's academic program and offerings to keep the focus on student achievement?
Okay, thank you. Before I answer this question, I want to just touch on a couple things from the last one. Teacher retention. One of the other things that we do in the district is that we added here in the last couple of years is longevity bonuses, and that helps to keep teachers here longer. Another thing to Abe's comment about health insurance, our district has done an incredible job with our health insurance program. We've had next to no increases in premiums in close to 5 years now. And I think what Dr. Zadowski was referring to is that there's a potential because of COVID and the impacts that it might make nationwide. There's a potential for premium increases down the road. We just don't know. As far as academic programs and how it might affect a student achievement, I've been very blessed. 2 of our kids have graduated valedictorians in the school. And in my opinion, it has as much to do with home life as it does what happens in the classroom. We have incredible teachers in the district. Our students went to Downsville, loved the school, all the way up through middle school and high school. And I think, they had things were in place to push the kids when they needed to be pushed, and they had programs in place to help the kids when they fell behind. And I think of the mentoring that goes on at the high school. Our students, our children have been involved with that, where they help younger students sometimes tutor other classmates or younger classmates. I do think it's something that we continue to look at. Just as of late, we've been focusing on math and language arts in the district and what changes might need to be made down the road. We've talked about it at school board meetings here in the past 3-4 months and what changes or how much achievement we want, and kind of reestablish those goals in the work plan and strategic plan for Dr. Zadowski and the rest of the team to work on. And so I think it's something we continue to fine tune, but I feel very good where the district is at. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave Steyer. Moving on to Jennifer Zachary, how would you handle this question?
Okay. This is really not my area of expertise. I would rely on Brian Seguin and his professional judgment on the direction that our district should go. Thanks.
Okay, Jennifer, thank you. Then we'll move on to Scott Parker.
Yeah, like the other candidates, I think the school district does a great job on their academic programs. And as far as focusing on student achievement, at the board meetings, oftentimes board members will recognize the achievements of our students. So if we have to increase that so that these students that are achieving more get more recognition and they can feel more proud of themselves, so that tangible achievement of attaining your goals. That's just great for all kids, even everyone of all ages, So I think that the school district is doing a great job. And if that wasn't the case, I would just hope that the parents that disagree would come to the school board meetings and let us know, and that would lead to the school board improving the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott Parker. Okay, Abe Smith, what would you recommend regarding the district's academic program and offerings?
I think I agree with a lot of what's been said in terms of, I think Menomonee Area School District has a lot of really good programs, and I've been really impressed with what I see coming out of, out of the high school, especially in terms of, things like academic decathlon and the science Olympiad, and, just really amazing performance for sort of a town this size. That's not in a big urban area with, hundreds of museums and all these other things, right? It's really an impressive performance overall. I think, the reason that is, just to bring it back to my main point here, is because we have good teachers who are willing to do the hard work and prepare material and work with the students on a one-on-one basis. And that sort of personal mentorship is something that is absolutely essential. And so that academic achievement comes out of investment in the teaching staff and paras and everyone else in the school district. And so if we keep good teachers happy that they can and that they know they can build a stable career here and have pride in their work and improve things that they see on the ground, then I think we're in a good position. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Abe Smith. Moving on to Rachel Henderson.
All right. If you don't mind, I'm going to take a circuitous route here. When you asked this question, something that popped to mind is I was a kid who grew up and school came pretty easily to me. I didn't struggle with a lot of subjects. And so when I mentioned in my opening statement that I have my older son struggled with certain things, and it felt completely alien to me. And I really worried more than I worried about him getting over those academic struggles. I worried about how he would feel about school, because I knew that as a kid who didn't struggle, like I really enjoyed school, and I was worried that he would lose that enjoyment. And I just want to say that the way that at every level his teachers have worked with him, like he has kept loving school, and he has kept finding the things that he is good at and going all in on them. And I think that speaks really highly of the quality of education that's happening in the Menomonie School District. And when we talk about focus on student achievement, I think it can get lost that some students are going to achieve really well in one subject and not in others. And so I am really appreciative that teachers are able to see, and our school district is able to see kids as whole, and to keep encouraging them even when some subjects are a struggle for them. I'll also add, like I think somebody else mentioned this Science Olympiad. I'm really grateful that that's an option at my students' elementary school, and I don't think it is everywhere. I think having kids have access to those types of opportunities, even at the elementary school level, is a great way to keep them focused on learning. And anything that allows kids to explore their passions, I think, is the best way that we can keep them excited about achievement. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel Henderson. Now let's give this question to Brittany Weiker.
Thank you. I believe our school district has a good variety of options that, can students can find their talents. They have a very good variety during summer school, field trip, offerings of field trips, everything from coding to band to, when they get to high school, they're doing woodworking and mechanics. There's a wide variety that the students can, look into and see what they're good at and what they enjoy. There's a good variety of sports and extracurricular activities that can help kids. One kid might enjoy math counts. Another kid might enjoy, a sport or whatever. We have a really good diverse options for our students. Along with that, I would like to research what other districts might have done or are doing and what we could potentially add to our course offerings. But I think our district does a pretty good job of, giving a lot of options to our students. Thanks.
Thank you, Brittany Weiker. Last up is Dominique Stewart on this question.
I would have to agree that I think our district does offer a lot of really cool programs. And what I like about it is that we offer opportunities for kids to like really excel and be advanced, but we also offer opportunities for kids to just try. I did science Olympiad and math counts as a kid, and I was bad at math counts, like embarrassingly bad, but I loved the experience and I loved getting to work with other kids and see other kids do well. But I think we do offer a lot of great things. But when we talk about student achievement, I think we need to keep in perspective that we are having some big changes as a result of COVID in terms of the levels that we're used to seeing and even the perspective that our students have. I was able to talk with a recent grad from Menomonee who spent 2 years at school, like during COVID. And one of the things I realized is that a lot of our students and most of us probably have sort of been living the past 2 years in survival mode. And, when you're a student and you're in survival mode, sometimes you shut down when you don't see the immediate value of something, because that's all you can handle is what you need right now. And so when we are looking at the programs and offerings we have and what we're hoping to achieve, I think we need to remember that we have to meet students where they're at. And for some kids, they're going to be able to jump in and get back to normal and catch up. And some kids are going to need more individual approaches or smaller groups, or even more engagement to help see the value of the things that we're learning. And I think all that stems back to supporting your teachers who are doing a lot of this work already and just need more resource and time to continue to reach out to our students.
Thank you, Dominique Stewart. We have one more question, and I think that plus our signing off time is probably going to be what we've got for the program tonight. So the first person to answer this question will be Jennifer Zachary. And the question is, beyond the curriculum, what role do you think the school board should play in promoting equity, diversity, and inclusion in our schools? You're muted, Jen. Jennifer? You might have lost Jennifer off the screen. Shall we start then with?
Nope, I'm right here.
Oh, good.
Am I there? Nope. Okay. Sorry about that. I think every child has the right to learn at a pace that is comfortable for them. Everyone learns differently, and I feel that we should be able to provide the tools that they need in school and beyond. That's all I have. Thanks.
Okay. So Scott Parker, again, beyond the curriculum, what role do you think the school board should play in promoting equity, diversity, and inclusion in our schools?
I think our school district does a pretty good job promoting the equity, diversity, and inclusion. So with Title IX and the Civil Rights Act, there's not a lot of room for that not to take place. So when it's mandated by law, there's not a lot we would do about that. And it's really just what the students want. So if a student wants to do something, they're not prohibited or, for the lack of a better word, excluded from those organizations based on their diversity or anything of that nature. So I don't think there's a lot the school board would do in that regard, unless, if a parent disagreed and they came to the school board, I'd happily hear what they had to say, and we could debate amongst the board what the best course of action to rectify that grievance would be. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott Parker. Abe Smith, how do you address this question?
So first I want to speak a little bit about why equity, diversity, and inclusion are so important. So I often am in the situation, teaching at the university level, where I have a class of, let's say, 40 students taking a calculus course in engineering. And 39 of them, maybe 38, look like me. They're, they're white guys from the upper Midwest. And there's maybe one woman or one student of color in the back of the class. And the thing you notice as a teacher is how people respond in different situations. If, say, someone gets a C on a calculus test, because everyone does, well, the 38 white guys, right? They'll all say, hey, I got a C. It's okay. Maybe I'll study harder next time. Maybe not. We'll see. For the student of color, the woman in the back of the class, in that context, they look around the class and they see no one who looks like themselves, and they feel alone. They feel that they don't belong. And no matter what we do as a teacher, they're going to think to themselves, maybe I don't belong here. No one here looks like me. No one here is like me. No one has the experiences I have. Maybe I just don't belong here. And that's a very destructive and corrosive feeling that comes from not putting effort as an institution into growing diversity, having a genuinely inclusive culture, and making sure that we have equity in how we distribute resources and talk about issues. Now, I think a lot of parents in the majority white town like Menomonee have some nervousness about these topics, but I just want to say that nervousness is really unfounded. Teachers know how to approach these topics carefully. It's what they're trained to do. A white student in class should never feel personal blame or guilt for society's problems, and a non-white student in class should never feel they are a token or a specimen or an exception. Students should feel that they belong in SDMA, that it's their home. Thank you.
So it feels like you didn't get quite your full time, but maybe I was still. Okay, after Abe, Rachel Henderson.
Yes. Hi, thank you. As a mother, I think about this a lot as a mother. And I'm raising two sons. They are going to grow up to be the students that Abe described. They're going to grow up to be white men who will have a option to feel at home almost anywhere they choose to be. And I think that I think school is a really important place for them to think about and learn about the stories that other kids bring into the world, and that other kids are carrying with them, and that other adults will be carrying with them as they get into adulthood. And I think that's one thing that is hard for a family like ours to give them at home. We try to expose them to different types of stories and different types of experiences, but the reality is that almost all of our family is white as well. And I think school is a great place where they can learn that. And I appreciate the way that diversity has been incorporated into our kids' curriculum so far. I appreciate the opportunities they've had to learn the stories of other cultures. I appreciate the times when teachers have taken a minute or taken some time to raise up what are the stories of other students in the class. And to make sure that they are able to share with one another and to learn that way. So, as a school board, I'm not sure exactly what our role is in that. I think that has more to do with the day-to-day of what's happening in our schools. I feel like what's happening in our schools for the most part is great. Again, this comes back to supporting teachers to make sure that they're able to keep doing that and to do it in a way that's age appropriate, but is also honoring the experience of every student who's in our schools. Thanks.
Thank you, Rachel Henderson. Next person to address this question, Brittany Weiker.
every student within our school district is important. We need to figure out what their strengths are, and we need to help them, play to those strengths and, work on them. And that's what we need to help them succeed in life. That's really the goal here. These kids are our future. We need to do whatever we can to give them what they need to succeed. Some kids will need a little extra help. They might need a personalized plan. But whatever we need to do to get each student what they need to succeed in life is what should be done within our schools. Yep, that's what I got for that one.
Thank you, Brittany. Okay, next person to speak to this issue, Dominique Stewart.
I believe that the role the school board plays in promoting equity, diversity, and inclusion is leading the commitment. We need to decide as a board how bad we really want this. Do we want, and I'm going to sort of stick with diversity and being a minority because that's my experience in the district, but do we simply want our district to be not racist, or do we want to be anti-racist? Do I want my students to just learn, not to use the N-word, or to, hey, call other people out when you're hearing that? And I hope that is not shocking to you, because as an elementary music teacher, there were several times throughout my 5 years that I had to sit down with some students because they used that word in my room. And I strongly believe that it makes a bigger difference having that conversation with me than it does with someone that doesn't look like me. And especially someone you don't know. And that is why it is so important to have a staff that reflects the diversity of our students. I have been in this community for over 20 years. I grew up in this district. I never had a teacher that looked like me. I became a teacher, and the district was not a place that I could exist and feel safe and feel valued. So I have to question, how bad does this district really want it? Because I was not given a teacher that looked like me for the years that I was in school. I didn't get to work with anyone who looked like me. And so we need to listen to the voices that we have and really determine how committed are we to this. And the school board needs to lead that commitment.
Thank you, Dominique Stewart. Dave Steyer, what do you say to this question?
Okay, so what role should the school board play in promoting equity, diversity, and inclusion beyond curriculum? And so I think that, first and foremost, the policies that we establish and set in the district, we've gone over that before. But I think more importantly, how the district promotes things that are inclusive of all students, or certain students that might not fit in the curriculum environment or in the classroom. Things such as the arts, music, and plays, musicals and plays, science Olympiad, forensics, things that we can do for students that, in certain situations may not do well in the classroom, but have the opportunity to get a co-op job in high school or work at something that might fit better to them. It makes for students that may not fit in certain ways in the classroom, something like this can be a gold mine for those students. Our sports is a big one. A lot of students in the district go out for sports. And I would argue that between sports and forensics and the music and all the other activities that we have in our district, I think they're an added bonus to what the curriculum has to offer as far as students getting along and feeling inclusive and accepting of diversity and things like that. I think that one of the things I'm most proud of is when I go to sporting events or forensics tournament or things like that, and you see students interact with each other, there's no thought of color when they do that, things of that nature. To them, we're people, and I think that the more that our district can do to promote these other activities that students can be involved in and take part in and become part of the bigger school community, I think it only helps and strengthens our school community as a whole. Thank you.
Well, thank you, David Steyer. Okay, that brings our question section to a close, and each candidate now gets the chance to speak for 30 seconds. For 30 seconds in a closing statement, and they were warned ahead of time about the 30 seconds. So we will start in reverse order to our opening statements, and that means that Jennifer Zachary will speak first in her closing statement.
Okay, I'm mute.
Okay, first I'd like to thank you, Ellen, and I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters this evening for having me tonight. And I also want to leave you with a quote from Ronald Reagan. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for and protected and handed on for them to do the same. And I also want to thank all the candidates for running also. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. David Steyer.
Thank you, Ellen. Once again, thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. I have been on the school board for 9 years. It's been an honor for me to serve. I would humbly ask for your vote, not only in the primary, but if I make it through for the general election as well. I think that I have an ability to work and bring people together to build consensus on the board. We deal with a lot of things on the farm here that can be very stressful and things like that. So it's helped me in the boardroom to get through some of the stressful situations. So I appreciate all the support that I've had from the community in the past, and would appreciate your vote as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave Steyer. Dominique Stewart.
In closing, I just hope that the teachers in our district know that I see them, that I value you guys. I trust you guys. I know the work that you put in. I know how many meetings you have during these PD days, the times that you don't get to be in your classroom. And I am here running on school board because I want to support you guys. And I want to take an active role in that. And I also thank you guys for the support that you have given me so far as well.
Thank you, Dominique Stewart. Brittany Weiker.
I want to help make sure our children are getting the best education possible. They are our future leaders. I support transparency, integrity, and open communication. Please make sure to vote in the primary on February 15th and the spring election on April 5th. Thanks again to the League of Women Voters and WIS community. And those of you out there watching, I would appreciate your vote. And if you have any further questions, be sure to reach out.
Thank you, Brittany Weiker. Rachel Henderson.
Thank you, Ellen. Thanks to the League of Women Voters. Public schools are at the heart of our community. I'm excited for the opportunity to be of service to our schools. In previous years, I've served as president vice president and then president of the Dunn County chapter of Wisconsin Farmers Union. I've been treasurer of a mid-sized nonprofit board. I've served on other boards, and I've worked as a mentor to beginning and aspiring farmers. I think that I have skills and experience that are relevant to the challenges ahead of us and would love the opportunity to bring them to SDMA.
Thank you, Rachel Henderson. Abe Smith.
There we go, unmuted. So students come to us with all different life experiences. When a student tells us their lived experience, we need to hear them and believe them. We need to meet them where they are and help them grow into the person that they want to be. This is what I do every day as a teacher. And I just want to point out, because I think it was kind of bypassed a little bit, I've worked every day with people who are gay, lesbian, transgender, intersex, people of all sexualities and genders. And you have too, every day, whether you know it or not. And that's great. Thanks.
Thank you, Abe Smith. Scott Parker.
Thanks everybody for coming and learning more about the candidates for school board. I'd like to end with a quote, being that I'd like to emphasize Constitution Day on September 17th. A quote from John Jay, our nation's first Supreme Court Justice. He said, "All citizens ought not only read, but study the Constitution, for those who know their rights will more easily perceive when they are being infringed upon." And I think that really hits home. As I said before, it's our duty to teach the rising generation to be free. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott Parker. In closing, this has been, you have had the opportunity, you and the audience have had the opportunity to hear 7 people proclaim their sincere desire to serve the community on the school board. In closing, I want to thank everyone. I want to thank the candidates, the league planners, our co-sponsor, Menomonee Area Chamber of Commerce, our videographer, Steve Hansen, and you, our audience tonight. Please check out our league website. That's LWV-GCV, League of Women Voters, Greater Chippewa Valley, .org, and watch our calendar for events like these. Check out myvote.wi.gov. That's how I think of it. myvote.wi.gov to make sure you are registered, and to, if you are working on getting a hold of an absentee ballot or doing early voting, or to know where your polling place is, that's where you go. Check out vote411.org after February 20th, and we will have information on that site about the candidates in their own words. We can't do it before the primary, but this gets done before the April 5th election. And be sure to vote in the primary on February 15th, and in the spring election on April 5th. And you might even think about joining the League of Women Voters. Thank you so much.